My name's Christine Grover, and I'm one of the college counselors. And Maya Lupa, and Katie Dunnigan, and Megan, who's in the back running everything. So that's our team. All right, so today we're meeting about what's the real cost of college. We're going to talk about the actual cost of attendance and what that term means, different funding opportunities. We're going to look into aid, net price calculator, and then end with scholarships.
So the first kind of concept to understand as you start kind of your college search process and how you will pay for college is the actual cost of attendance. So what is the cost of attendance? It's a couple different things. One is sticker price. So you go to a college fair, you're with your son or daughter, you get this amazing glossy brochure. Oh my gosh, there's mountains, I love it, I want to ski. And then you go to the page that says finances, and you go, oh my gosh, what is this number? I've never seen a number this high before. That is the sticker price. You're gonna have sticker shock associated with it. Universities kind of share the highest amount that you can expect to pay, or kind of the higher end of different aspects of the cost of attendance. So cost of attendance is your total expense for 1 year. If you think of it like an equation, it's a direct cost plus an indirect cost. So direct costs are anything that is going to be billed by the university. So that's your tuition, any associated student fees, your housing. What tends to be more indirect is books and supplies. Sometimes universities will have a rental program or they'll include that. It'll depend on the school. But you're looking at transportation. So if your son or daughter goes to college in the Northeast and they want to fly home for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, those transportation costs will add up. Personal expenses, so they may get tired of dorm food and they're going to order DoorDash a lot, or pizza, so that extra money is an indirect cost. So yes, there's a kind of further equation there: tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, transportation. The good thing is you're more than likely not going to be paying that full sticker price, because many of these costs are sort of flexible. So I don't know about you, but when I went to college, I shared a dorm room with one other person, and we had one kitchen per floor and one bathroom per floor. If you tell that to a student now, that sounds like third world living. So if you live at a residence hall that is high tech, that you have your own private suite, your own private everything, you're going to pay more. If you want to save a little bit, have that more authentic college experience and share a room with another person. It'll change you for the good, I hope. Supplies. So if your son or daughter wants to study a visual art, their supply costs might be a little bit more, because they're going to be looking at sculpting necessities, paints, etc. Sometimes engineering students pay a little bit more because they have access to world-class technology and facilities, and those come at a slightly higher cost. But in the end, this kind of overall sticker price is what's going to be used to determine eligibility for financial aid. There's a really lovely tool called the net price calculator that we'll talk about later that will give you more of a kind of accurate estimate as to what you might expect to pay. So when thinking about the variety of different funding options that you have, they kind of fall into three main buckets. So you have merit-based, need-based, and kind of outside scholarships. Merit-based is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to be awarded a scholarship or financial package based on your merits. So your talents, your academics. If you're an recruited athlete, your son or daughter is looking at an athletic scholarship potentially. And generally, it's kind of automatically awarded by the university. So a good question to always ask when you're meeting with an admissions representative is, how does your merit-based funding work? Does my son or daughter have to fill out a supplemental application, or is it automatically considered based on their application for admission? Need-based is going to be more based on your family's financial need. So they'll be looking at your FAFSA, the CSS profile. They'll be looking to see kind of what your estimated contribution is and where they can fill in those gaps. And then outside scholarships are going to be awarded usually with an additional application, but external to both federal and the colleges. So Coca-Cola has a really great scholarship. Many of you may work for companies that offer a scholarship for students, and so that's kind of falling under those outside scholarships. Some of them can be stacked together at the different institutions, but again, that's kind of a per university policy.
So a lot of parents here have children who participate in activities. Show of hands. Show of hands. Community service, we've got athletics, we've got theater, we've got a variety of activities here on campus. Those things would fall into the merit-based aid. That would be something that the school would give you an incentive for sending your child there. So the umbrella includes things that are not necessarily based on the scope of your financials, whereas need-based aid is granted based on your FAFSA. For those of you who have seniors in the room, FAFSA is officially open. It opened October 1st. That is where you enter all your financial information from prior year, and that is exactly where and how colleges will determine your need-based aid, and how they figure that number out we'll get to in just a moment. So that's scholarships, grants, work study. That's basically where the kid works on campus. It could be cleaning beakers in a lab. It could be working in the admissions office, giving tours. There's a variety of opportunities on campus that falls into their financial aid package and helps them close the gap of what it costs to pay for school. So there's also student loans and parent loans, which I'm sure you would like to avoid if at all humanly possible. And then merit-based aid, like I said, is based on what the students have done. So a lot of times it is based on scholarships, grants, and tuition discounts. This is incentive. But these lovely schools do not offer merit-based aid. So you might recognize some of these names. They are aware of financials, and so when you fill out the FAFSA, if you fall below a certain income threshold, they will look to see. Some schools, like Princeton, just announced if your family total income is less than $100,000, they will give your student full tuition. You have to figure out if that includes room and board, transportation costs, labs, that single dorm room that we heard about, this fancy living. And so there's a lot of fine print when it comes to these things. But the highly selective schools typically do not provide merit scholarships because everyone who's applying to a highly selective school probably has done quite a few things in their high school academic career, both on and off campus, that it's worth bragging about. Next. All right. So now we're trying to figure out, what am I actually paying? I mean, Trinity costs a pretty penny. Now I got to pay for 4 more years of college, maybe a couple of years of grad school after that. And this is how we figure out. So the sticker price, for those of you who are juniors and seniors, maybe even some sophomore parents, if you had a chance to get onto our lovely college counseling platform called SCORE, you will click on the academics and you will click through the different tabs of the colleges. You will see a part where it talks about what the college costs. That is your lovely sticker price. That's what's published. That is your official cost of attendance. When you subtract the financial aid, so once you filled out that FAFSA, for some schools it's the CSS profile. If you Google CSS profile schools, it gives you a whole list of the ones that require it. That's a more in-depth look at your financials and assets. They will subtract all that information, put it in their lovely little equation, and they will add in some scholarships and grants and possibly some merit-based aid, fingers crossed, not to one of those lovely Ivies as we'd mentioned though. And you get your net cost, what you're actually gonna pay. So the bottom line, it's like when you walk into a car dealership and you see the sticker price and then they get you to the back room and they're like, hey, let's run your numbers. That's it. All right. And so we are going to show you what that looks like.
All right, so this is my favorite tool. If you're going to take a picture of anything, if you're going to write anything down, you want to know the term net price calculator. As far as, I was just listening to Maya talk about all the other forms and financial aid and those things the kids have to do. Don't worry. They'll have a counselor. We walk the kids through all of those things as well. I know financial aid gets a little overwhelming, so you do have support. But this net price calculator, by law, every college and university in the United States has to have one of these. Some of them have them really hidden on their websites. So a great trick is to Google the name of the school and net price calculator, and then it will take you to that page. So just for fun, my youngest son graduated University of Tampa, so I was familiar with theirs. So I said University of Tampa net price calculator, and this is what came up. So in this net price calculator, in the privacy of your own home, you're going to sit and fill out your students' information and all your personal business. And you do it, and then it's supposed to calculate what, based on that information, they think you would pay. We do realize there's a huge gap. I mean, their idea of who needs monetary aid and my idea of who needs monetary aid, those incomes don't match up. So we do ask that kids run this and check, like, does it make sense for my family before you apply? Because I had a student a couple years ago who cried and cried, got into her amazing school, and her parents said, it costs $91,000 a year for attendance? Are you kidding me? And I said, didn't you do the net price calculator? And they said, yeah, we did, but we didn't believe that we wouldn't get aid. They're really pretty accurate. So if we're looking at this one specifically, the income was for basically, kind of rule of thumb is like $125,000. As a family, you don't necessarily qualify for that need-based aid. How you're supposed to pay $91,000 out of that, I have no idea. So for University of Tampa, it came back, and they do have Florida Bright Futures, and our next cup of college dives into that, so I don't want to get into it too much, but that's the scholarship for Florida students. For public colleges, it can pay full tuition, but private colleges will add some money as well in Florida, hence Florida Bright Futures. It's to keep all the smart people here. So they've got the Bright Futures academic scholars, so they're going to give about $6,333 a year for that. And then University of Tampa gives, and this is what we're talking about, merit. So this student had a 3.8, applied test optional, and they received the presidential scholarship, which was another $15,000 off a year. So it says total financial aids, $21,000. I think their cost of attendance is $45 now. So it gives you a good feel for what that's going to cost. They all look a little bit different. Please feel free, if you're going through one of those and you're stuck, let us know. We're happy to help.
So scholarships, this is my favorite part because some of you may not be aware of this. We have a separate Canvas page dedicated to scholarships, which is, thanks to our lovely assistant, Miss Megan, hiding out back that you saw over breakfast, is updated regularly, definitely more than monthly, which is what we used to do, with scholarships that your students are eligible for. Just this morning I hopped on, there's 2 pages worth of scholarships that are happening in October. So we update them by not only deadline and interest and schools, we put them in as soon as we find out about them. There's a variety of websites and resources that they can look at. Scholarships are something that happen outside of the school. So the financial aid, the need-based, the merit-based, that's internal to the schools. The scholarships are external. They are a separate additional component. They're that cherry on top of your ice cream sundae. You will have to apply to them. The ones that say you do nothing but click here, those are not valid. Sorry, my friends. The juniors don't like that information. But it's very important for the seniors because as they're going through this process, any sophomore parents in the house? Juniors? Seniors? Okay. They can apply at any point. They can even apply once they're in college. That's the best part about scholarships. They're not necessarily limited to your senior year when you're in the college application process. If your child has a particular interest, there's a scholarship for that. If your child is a lefty like me, there's a scholarship for that. Trust me, I got one. If your scholarship is artistically inclined, if they have mastered iMovie on their iPhone and they make the most awesome clips, there's a scholarship for that. Anything and everything under the sun, anywhere from Pinterest to Google will give you scholarships, but we already have a home base ready for you. And they're also in the college application portals. Some schools have their own scholarships once you're past the application process. Some you can be nominated for, and some you can apply for, like honors programs and things like that as well. So scholarships run the gamut. They are not limited to just what you've done on campus. They're not even limited to your major, and I think that's the most important takeaway about this slide. Your child can apply for a scholarship that they're interested in, not based on what they're going to study, not based on something they've already done. It could be write a creative short story. It could be submit an iMovie. It could be because they're a lefty. There's so many variety of things, and there's no limitation on when they can start applying or how far into the process they can continue applying. There are scholarships open to college freshmen. So if they decide that they want to have additional money to help them with school, it's never too early and it's never too late.
So that was the good news, but there is something to be very aware with these scholarships. So if you are a family that's receiving need-based aid based on income, if you get money from these scholarships, the government will back out their money. They're like, oh, great, thank you for raising that. Unless you find a scholarship and you ask them if they can apply that money directly to housing. So any outside scholarships, if they're just sent to tuition, could hurt your need-based aid. If you're not getting any need-based aid, then collect them.
All right, before we transition over to questions, if you want to take a picture of the slide, you may, but we just kind of wanted to let you know what to expect for the next few months. Right now, I think the three of us are very much living in a day-to-day environment because we're helping our kids apply to college right now. So October, Bright Futures application open for seniors October 1st, same day as FAFSA, which is noted there. One thing that's not on the slide is that next week on Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30, we'll be hosting the Olin College of Engineering. It's a great school. Take a look at it in SCORE. If you have a son or daughter who's looking at a STEM-based major or really wants an intensive engineering experience, it's worth coming and learning more about it. So yeah, you can see we'll be talking about a few more kind of pertinent subjects, how to get your student involved, whether or not you should send that test score and what that might mean for the application, and then how to apply. So there's a lot of really great information coming your way, and we hope to keep seeing you coming back.